It's time to underline the yellow. Now again, the yellow is for your wheels, and it's probably the hardest section that we have to go over. It's going to start on page 11-3. We're going to get started with the first section called Spring Air Torque. This is an example of a leaf spring. The leaf spring is found in the first section, which is you're going to underline missing, shifted, cracked, or broken leaf springs. We're going to skip the next sentence and follow our torque arm, which is this picture right here. Our torque arm is going to be the big paragraph there. You're going to underline the word torque arm. Then you're also going to underline not damaged and mounted securely. Next we have our air ride suspension, which is the last sentence on that page, which is air ride suspension, underline that. Damage and leaks are the main keywords there. When it comes to look for broken distorted coil springs, we can cross that out completely because our trucks do not have that. Next are going to be our mounts. We have our spring hangers, first mount that we highlighted before. Spring hangers cannot be cracked or broken. Now the words come before the spring hanger. Here's your bushing, found on top of the shock absorber. Your bushing cannot be missing or damaged. So those are the key words for your bushings. And there are your U-bolts. Pretty self-explanatory. They look like a U. Now U-bolts cannot be broken, loose, missing. So those would be the main key phrases to underline. We are also going to underline the bottom section that states secured to the vehicle frame and axle. That has to do with all your mounts, but mostly your U-bolts. Here is your shock absorber. Now your shock absorber, you only have to say two things: secure and no leaks. Underline secure and no leaks. Slack adjuster and push rod is the next section here. This is our brakes. Now our slack adjuster and push rod, you have to underline broken, loose, or missing parts. Move more than 1 inch. Brakes released when pulled by hand. So should not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released is the main words there. This is your brake chamber. Now your brake chamber should not be leaking, cracked, or dented, and it should also be mounted securely. Here are your brake hoses, lines, and couplings. I first want you to add the word coupling next to the word lines on the top, as I'm doing here now. Once that's done, you're going to underline cracked, worn, or leaking. This is your brake drum. Now your brake drum has a lot of things to say about it. We're going to say it's not cracked, dented, has no holes. Also underline loose or missing bolts. And then you're also going to underline contaminants, debris, oil, grease. Now when it comes to your brake linings, these are your picture of your brake linings. It looks like your brake pad. And all that stuff that's said underneath the brake lining is not necessary. So we're going to cross all of that stuff out. You can put a big X over it, or you can cross off the line by line. It's up to you. But next, I want you to draw an arrow to the sentence above that I just put in a box. And that's everything that you're going to have to say for the brake lining, which is not worn, dangerously thin. Now let's move to page 11-4. Here's about your tires and rims. So first is your rim. This is your picture of your rim. And underline here damaged or bent rims and welding repairs. Keywords there. Now for your tire, tread depth is the first item here. That's how deep those treads go. The front tires cannot have less than 4 30-seconds, and the back tires cannot have less than 2 30-seconds. This is your tire condition picture. So you're going to want to make sure that the tread is evenly worn, cuts or other damage to the tread or sidewalls, and everyone always forgets to talk about the valve caps and stems. So valve caps and stems are not missing, broken, or damaged. Underline all those. Tire inflation is next. You're going to use this gauge right here. It's located on the key for the vehicle. And pretty much you have to understand that you have to use the gauge. You cannot kick the tire. And you also write down the words 90 to 100 psi. That's what the tire pressure should be. Hub oil seals and axle seals. That's what this picture is of. Hub seals in the front, axle seals are going to be on their back tire. And over here you're only going to say two things. So you're going to say not leaking, oil level is adequate. So underline those terms. Lug nuts are next. These are your nuts that you find on your rims itself. You're going to have to make sure that they're present, free from cracks, distortions, and show no signs of looseness such as rust trails or shiny tread. All that must be underlined, all that must be memorized. You also must underline bolt holes. Here's your spacers. So your spacers are not bent, damaged, or rusted through. Spacers should be evenly centered with tires evenly separated. So underline evenly centered and evenly separated tires. And the last item is your splash guards or mud flaps. Either one works. Here you're just going to have to say they're not damaged and mounted securely. So like I said, the yellow is probably the most difficult one. The reason is many of these parts cannot be seen the entire time that you're doing this inspection. So much of this has to be committed to memory. Now you do have to understand that every single axle must be inspected in detail, whether you can see these items or whether you cannot. So make sure you talk to an instructor and you make sure you clarify what parts are on what axle. Thank you. I hope you paid attention. If you need to review this again, please do. And I'll see you on the next training. Thanks.